I know that you can all get excited about the Virginia QSO Party, but if you do get excited, I would like to remind you once again, stay in your seat, keep your hands and feet to yourself. Don't throw your food at me. All right, I'm from Sterling Park Amateur Radio Club. This is our website for the Virginia QSO Party. If you yes, leave it off, please. Just type in Virginia QSO Party in Google and you'll go right there, no problem. We have these topics today. Very, very briefly, I'll go over the rules. We have a couple strange rules, but otherwise it's just like any ordinary contest. We'll spend most of the time talking about what the QSO Party looks like in terms of data, how many logs and who participates, etc. A few moments on all-time high scores, and then we'll see if you have any ideas for a certificate for this year. These are the people who put on the party. There's Dick Maylott, W2YE. Some of you may know him. Dick runs the incoming two-letter prefix 4th Call Area QSL Bureau, and he goes to most of the ham fests and has a booth set up there. He handles the rules for the Virginia QSO Party. Henry, K2BFY, is the person who writes our scoring software. And Eric, AJ4FN, is the person who actually runs your Cabrillo logs through that scoring software. We rescore all of the logs. And John, KX4O, is actually not from Sterling Park Amateur Radio Club. He is from the Fauquier Amateur Radio Association, but he helps with the plaque scoring, and he's a heavy participant in the party. So that's the little team that helps put together the Virginia QSO Party. We're in the process of discussing the rules for 2018. There won't be any rule changes. No one has really proposed anything seriously. So the Virginia QSO Party will look exactly like it did last year. And what we want to do is promote activity in the 95 Virginia counties and the 38 independent cities. I'm from Connecticut. Until I started working on Virginia QSO Party, I did not know that there were this many counties and independent cities in Virginia. Connecticut, I think, has like 7. Much different. It's Saturday the 18th, Sunday the 19th, from 10 to 10 on Saturday and from 8 to 8 on Sunday. Other than that, this is a pretty standard contest. You get on the air, you exchange a couple of bits of information, those bits of information being your call sign, a serial number, and your location, which county or independent city you're from, and you log it from the person you're talking to, and that's it. We have a whole bunch of entry categories. It does not matter what you put down. We'll look at your log and figure out where you fit in there. The only thing you can't forget is down here. You got to remember to put your club name in there so we know who you are. Nothing significant here except for this last bullet. This last bullet says logs with a significant number of QSOs with the same station will be categorized as check logs. When I first started participating in the Virginia QSO Party, that must have been sometime around 2003, 2004, we had this big problem. And the problem was mobiles would run up and down the interstates, go west, they'd go south on 81, then cut back east into Richmond and come up and pretty much only talk to themselves. So they'd hit 3 or 4 bands, maybe do voice and CW, and they'd rack up a lot of points. And for some reason, we thought that was bad. So we introduced what we called, I think it was the 15-minute rule. We saw some other contests do that. Once you get on a band, you have to stay on that band for 15 minutes. I have never gotten so much hate mail in my life. I mean, that was not a well-liked rule. So that rule lasted 1 year, but I did notice after we went through that 1-year exercise that problem with the mobiles seemed to go away. But 2 years ago it came back. And we had that problem again with a couple of people, so we just literally just talking to themselves. Sometimes even in the same car, just talking to themselves. So we said, if it's obvious that you're just talking to yourself, You're not making an effort to get out and communicate with those 95 counties and 38 independent cities. We'll just make your log a check log. We have this other rule. Nope. Okay, this is all pretty straightforward. We have this other rule down here. So, you know, the multipliers are the counties and independent cities, the U.S. states, Canadian provinces, the DX countries. And then about 8 years ago, we added this rule down here. So you'll see later on that we had a problem in getting people to go into a lot of the counties and independent cities, so that we had those counties and independent cities activated. So we thought one way of encouraging people to go to those counties and independent cities was to give them some extra credit. And so the extra credit works like this. If you go to one of those lesser populated counties and independent cities and you operate from there and you make 10 contacts, we will give you multiplier credit for that county if you don't otherwise get it. So there's a lot of counties and independent cities in Virginia where somebody who lives in that county or independent city does not get on the air, and the only way they're covered is by mobiles. So the mobile gets a little bit of extra benefit by going there and making some contacts. Yes, D-Expeditions do it. And then they also get, those mobile and expeditions get 100 points for each Virginia county independent city from which they log a valid QSO. So going around for the mobiles and expeditions, they get a lot of extra credit that way. There's some of them that will pick up, 10, 11 multipliers from doing that. And, well, we appreciate their doing it. You can submit 3 different types of logs here: fixed, expedition, and mobile logs. We have had people submit 3 logs in the past. So we had a ham who was from West Virginia. So he operated a little bit from his home. So he did a fixed station from West Virginia. He got in his car and he drove from his wherever the heck his QTH was in West Virginia to Virginia, and he operated a little bit on the way. So he got a non-Virginia mobile log. And then he did a Virginia mobile log when he was driving around in Virginia. So he submitted 3 logs, and that's fine. We prefer the logs get submitted in Cabrillo format. All the standard logging programs put that out. It makes it easy for us to operate. SIN money, thank you very much. Everybody submitting a log should get the certificate. Now, I know that right here what I usually do is I say, I hope everybody who submitted a log in the past had gotten their certificate. But the chances of my actually finding something here, somebody in the audience who submitted a log in the past, is low. But I did meet W4JTP. He was in here. Wasn't he in here earlier? No, so these are the people that I have from Virginia, from Vienna Wireless, who participated in the contest. So in 2017 we had 1. Ooh, bad. In 2016 here's 3. In 15 there were 2, and then in 14 you had 7, and here's 5. This guy, he's from Hopewell. But for some reason, he has been submitting his name as part of the Vienna Wireless for, many years. There he is right here.
He's a former president.
Oh, okay. That's what it is. And you do one good thing right, though. Other than not having enough participation, enough people go around and submit logs, you do sponsor 2 of the plaques for Virginia QSO Party. You do the... Historically, you've done the Virginia Club Combined Score, and you've done the single band plaque, and for that we thank you. How many people knew that? Oh, that's not too bad. We have a lot of plaques. They're all identified up on the club website. We've got 27 plaques. There is a plaque for everything, we had to actually start telling people, no, we don't want any more plaques. Otherwise, everybody who participated in the party would get a plaque. So it stands at about 27 now. We haven't started soliciting sponsors yet this year, so the sponsor column is not filled in. But we've got 3 categories of plaques. We've got plaques only for Virginia stations. And you see in here, here's single operator, high power, low power. There's a single operator QRP. There's, this is for any mode. We've got phone. We've got CW. Here's the expedition plaque. We've got 2 plaques for mobile operators, right? We've got Virginia Mobile single operator. That's where the driver and the guy who operates the radio is the same person. And we've got Virginia Mobile multiple operator. That's where you can have 2 people in there, you know, one person driving for a while, one person talking, and then you can switch if you want to. And then there are the 2 club plaques, and I'll talk more about these later. There's a club plaque called Virginia Club Combined Score, and then there's a club plaque called Virginia Club Virginia QSOs Only. And that was instantiated for a particular reason. And here are the multiple operators, single transmitter, multiple transmitter. And here are the other 2 categories. For any single operator station, regardless of where you are, and there's VHF, novice tech, rookie, single band, 2 plaques here for people with Virginia QSOs only, digital mode, youth and young adult. Youth being 18 and under, and young adult being 25 and under. And we got plaques for stations outside of Virginia. On the, yes?
I just want to tell you, I know for a fact that all those years that you had up there,
Yes.
we had many operators. I know I got a certificate every year. We just didn't put on there that we were part of the club. That's the problem.
That's
Just
too
wanted to
bad.
let you know
Okay,
that
I appreciate that.
We did participate quite heavily.
There was one year, I think K4XY actually came in first in one division. The club got the plaque, but I was the only operator. I never got the plaque. I never got the certificate.
Back on that first slide where I showed all the members of the Virginia QSO Party, the gentleman down in the lower right-hand corner, John Huggins, KX40, from the Fauquier Amateur Radio Association, he contacted me. This must have been 2008 or 2009, something like that. And he said he wanted to do something about the fact or the perception that the big stations dominated the Virginia QSO Party. You know, so the guys who have the linear amplifiers and the tall towers were winning everything, and he did not feel that was right. And so he proposed that we instantiate a couple of plaques, and it ended up being 3 plaques that only count Virginia QSOs, or the QSOs that you make inside the state of Virginia. And this says that even somebody with a very modest station, 100 watts, and 40 or an 80 meter wire antenna that's not very far up off the ground, so you can get some NVIS propagation, can be competitive in those categories. And that's what we ended up doing. So now we have 3 plaques that only count Virginia QSOs. That doesn't mean that you can make QSOs with anybody you want to. After you submit your logs and the electronic logs, we process the logs for the purpose of these 3 plaques and rescore them, only counting the contacts you made in the state of Virginia. And so we have 3 plaques for that. One is Virginia Club, and we only count Virginia QSOs. And the other 2 are right here, single operator Virginia, the number of counties and independent cities contacted, right? So there's 133 counties and independent cities. And right here, single operator Virginia QSOs only. And you would think that those would overlap, with someone who does high power, but they don't. It ends up that usually those are won by different people. Okay, so we've got a lot of plaques. We do go around and do presentations. Here's Shenandoah Valley, and that's my XYL there in the back, helping arrange chairs that one day. And of course, we forgot to take the picture. So all we have is this one picture before everybody arrived. And every club seems to work a little bit differently, but I find it fun to go around and visit the different clubs. And this is Arlington. We rescore all the logs. We usually do this on sometime around the 22nd. The logs are all due in by the 15th of April. By the 22nd, we have received all the paper logs, and 3 or 4 of us will get here around the table and we will look at all the paper logs. Usually the Cabrillo formatted logs come in correct for the most part, but we find a lot of errors on the paper logs. The first year I did this, we have our award ceremony at the Manassas Ham Fest, and I went out and we passed out plaques, and I thought, silly me, that all I had to do was pass out the plaques, and that's wrong. I had to talk about the statistics. You know, when I passed out the digital plaques, I had to say, well, how many contacts did they make, where were they, and all of that sort of stuff. Well, I was not prepared for that. That's why, you know, be polite and keep your hands to yourself. But I learned. And by this time, I was a good government contractor, and I knew all about Excel. And if you put everything in Excel, you can chop those numbers any way you want. And so here is all the metadata. So we have metadata about the logs, and then we also have data about the QSOs. So here we go. Number of logs. Way back in 2001, we had 110 logs. And we started growing, and here we hit 353. That was the first year we had over 300. And we kept climbing and climbing and climbing. And then right about here in 2013, we had 386 logs. And I felt sure that in 2014 we would hit 400, and we did not. We went down, and then we went down. But then in 2016, we got 413 logs. That's an incredible number of logs for Virginia. And then last year we had 399 logs submitted.
You have to know how many clubs there are in Virginia?
In pardon?
In Virginia. How many clubs?
I do not know. I have a list, but I don't know offhand. I do have a slide later on that lists a whole bunch of clubs. And this is the class. So most people who participate in the Virginia QSO Party are amateur extras, 271 out of that almost 400. Very few advanced, that's disappearing fast. 83 generals, 8 techs, not very many techs. Some club call signs and some call signs from Canada and other countries. No novices anymore. I haven't seen a novice in a long, long time. Scores. The high score last year was 843,000 points. I'm sorry, down here, 600,000. And that was W4 VA, and they had 5 operators. That was a multi operation. You notice that was down, right? Here's 2014 is over 1,900,000, 900,000, 600,000. I guess propagation is not as good as it used to be. The average score went down also, right? The average score here in 2014 was 20,000, and it's now down to about 12,000. And the median score was 1,704. Most interesting is the low score. And here, 2005, we have 110, 112, 110, 0, 11, and last year the low score was a 0. How do you get a 0? This is actually very easy, especially for the UHF, VHF operators. So you submit your Cabrillo, your log, and the thing that happens most frequently is you forgot to put some information in the QSO data in the log. You forgot to put a serial number or forgot to put the QTH. And that happens frequently enough. And when that happens, we score that QSO with 0 points. And there's another thing that happens, and this affects the VHF, UHF operators a lot. You're used to working with grids. And so instead of having the 3-character abbreviation for a Virginia county or independent city, FFX, or whatever it is, you put in FM18. And we don't like FM18. We like the 3-letter abbreviation. So we score those with a 0. Usually, because we have an email address, we'll send an email back to the folks and say, you know, please fix it. You know, we can handle this, and sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. Last year, someone didn't. Somebody was very nice to me last year also, because we had 8 people submit logs with only 1 phone QSO in it. You know, I guess that bumps up our log count a little bit. Yes, sir.
Another possible source for 0 is power multiplier. If somebody uses more than a kilowatt, don't you multiply by 0?
So this is the modes. We were talking here about FT8 earlier, you know, and how he was automatic mode, did 100 contacts a night or something like that. And but this is how the modes separate between CW, mixed, phone, and digital. So, you know, everybody's on phone. 218 logs were submitted, just phone. 50 with just CW, which there's still a lot of activity with CW. 2 logs with digital. We have a plaque for digital modes, but last year we only had 2 logs submitted in digital modes. It'll be interesting to see if FT8 becoming popular, if that will change next year. Way back in the beginning, the party had this category, just say, you know, you had any power and you had QRP. And then in 2008, we separated out high power from low power because we were getting more people in the party, and somebody volunteered to do a plaque for high power. And so last year, most people do 300 of the 400 do low power, 20 people did QRP, and of course that leaves 60 odd with high power only. And the distribution between fixed mobile expedition, most people operate from their homes, 370 out of the 400, 26 mobile operations, and only 2 expeditions last year. And one was classified as a check log because he asked to have that done. So I was really surprised. We had one year we had like 16 expeditions. Look at that. And then it dropped off to almost nothing. Maybe it was weather. Maybe March is becoming bad weather.
What's the difference between a mobile and an expedition?
So a mobile, you can operate when you're driving, even if you don't do it, but you can operate when you're driving. An expedition, you cannot operate while you're driving. So usually for an expedition, well, it's split. Some people pull up with their car and their rig's mounted in their car, and they'll throw an antenna up over a tree. So they cannot operate when they're driving, you know what, unless they drag the tree behind them. Some other people will go and they'll find a couple hotels and places they want to go, and they'll check into a hotel and they'll operate out of a hotel or a cabin in a state park for the duration of the party. We do have some multi stations. You know, we had 2 stations with 8 operators. This is me, NQ4K. I had myself and 3 techs who just graduated from one of our classes come in, and I gave them their quick course in HF contesting, so they sat down and made a few contacts. Where do people operate? So remember, this is still logs, and so this is the single band where people just choose to stay in a band for the entire contest. And most people chase propagation. So 320 of that almost 400 logs last year, they just went wherever they felt they could get contacts. But there were 5 logs submitted on 80 meters, and look at this number. 40 meters last year, there were 39 logs submitted just working 40 meters. And of course, here's 2 meters down here. So most people like to stay active, and 40 meters is a popular band. We have a single band plaque, which, by the way, you sponsor. And so if you choose to stay on a single band, then you're eligible for that plaque. If you go to different bands, you know, then you're not. Last year, you may have you may or may not have noticed, but not that one. Historically, 40 meters has been a very good single band to be on. But last year, for some reason, the really hot band was 80 meters. It was incredible. So the people who kind of chose to just stay here on 40 meters kind of lost out. You'll see that later on when we talk about the QSOs. About 2/3 of the logs come from within the state of Virginia. About 1/3 come from other places. We get a few DX logs, not very many. Last year we got 7. We get logs from 33 states and 2 of the provinces. Another interesting thing, the first year that we had that high single operator Virginia counties and independent cities contacted, the person who won it was from Ontario. And I would like to say they got on 40 meters, and for some reason 40 meters and 1 bounce let that station up there in Ontario cover the entire state of Virginia.
Not surprising, actually.
And ever since then I've noticed Ontario, the stations in Ontario have been a pretty heavy participant in the Virginia QSO Party. We had logs from 73 counties and independent cities last year. That's not where the QSOs, that's where the logs were from. And that was down from the previous year. The heavy ones are Arlington, Chesapeake, Fauquier, Fairfax County. This is James City, Loudoun, Northumberland. People ask me what logging programs are popular. Back sometime in the past, the most popular logging program was this Virginia QSO logger. Sometime right in here, he changed that from being a standalone executable to something that required .NET be installed on your Windows machine. And after that, the popularity of that program plummeted. You know, from 32, and it just got less and less. But the most popular ones are N1MM. N1MM has a little package in it, specifically designed for the Virginia QSO Party, and N3FJP's Virginia State QSO Party program. I think you can download those from the net, and I believe they cost $6. If you're just starting to do this and you've never used N1MM before, I would suggest you not use that, but go with N3FJP's standalone program. You load it, it's very intuitive, it's very easy to use. N1MM is very popular, it's free. If you never used it before, there is this little bit of learning curve associated with it the first time you use it. So get someone to help you do it the first time. After you do it the first time, it's not too bad. Last year we had 27 logs submitted on paper. Sometimes they look nice, and sometimes they're written on little scraps of paper. Fat fingers, that's where people just go into some text editor. They've done it manually, right, on a piece of paper. They've gone into a text editor and just fat-fingered the data into something that looks like the correct format. And that still is reasonably popular. All right, talk about contacts and QSOs. So we had contacts, so we had just under 80,000 contacts, or what's that? That's about 40,000 QSOs last year on the electronic logs that were submitted to the Virginia QSO Party. 30% of them were from outside the state of Virginia. 2% were from DX entities. Contacted all 50 states, all the Canadian provinces. Counties and independent cities not activated. Back in 2005, we had 17 counties and independent cities from which there was not logged a QSO. And it's gone down. In 2009 we had 1, and again I thought for sure the next year would have them all. But then it went up in dribs and drabs and dribs and drabs. And finally in 2015 there was an HF, at least one HF QSO made from every county and independent city in the state of Virginia. And then in 16 it went up to 3, and last year we were missing 2.
What are a couple of the rare ones?
You know, you look at the distribution. So here is the year, and here is the county or independent city that was missed. And last year it was Essex and Northampton. And, you know, they've been missed a little bit in the past, but it's not like every year it's the same place. It changes. I do know I've talked to a couple of the mobile operators, and a couple of the mobile operators will try to make it a point to get the ones that we missed in the previous year. And maybe when they do that, they leave something else open. I'm not really quite sure how that works.
Is this information published on?
Yes, yes, it's up on our website. Go to Google, type in Virginia QSO Party, and you'll go to our website. And I haven't put this briefing up for this year. I will in a couple of weeks. But if you go to last year's party, all this data is up there. This is by QSOs, right? And you see last year by QSOs, we only had 183 QSOs in a digital mode. You were talking about making 100 a night on FT8. You know, so it'll be interesting to see what happens to that number this year. 30,000 phone and about 8,000 CW QSOs. And this is the bands. Remember earlier I talked about if you're going to go on a single band log to try to win that single band plaque, you might pick the wrong band. But this is where the QSOs were made last year. 40 meters. Right, 13,000, but 80 meters was 16, almost 17,000. I mean, the band was really hot on 80 meters last year. And, you know, a smattering in other places. There are 6 charts here, 6 eye candy charts, and, you know, list the county, independent city, and the number of QSOs contacts made in that county and independent city, and I don't think we're going to, you know, look at all of those. Now let's see, where are we now? We're in Vienna. This is Fairfax. Here's Fairfax. So the green says green lines are counties with more than 2,000 QSOs, and Fairfax had 2,437 QSOs last year, or contacts made in the county last year. And Fairfax had 244, Fairfax City. And Falls Church had 224. There's Fauquier. Remember the name Fauquier Amateur Radio Association. They dominate the Virginia QSO Party. There's 3, there's 4. There's Loudoun County with a little under 4,000. Here's Prince William, a little more than 2,000. Now, I had mentioned for a while there I was a government contractor. I am not saying that I had extra time on my hands. But I realized that looking at this data would drive you crazy. So I discovered this thing called Paint and the map of Virginia. And in about an hour, I go in and I can color all that in. One of these days, I'm going to get sophisticated and just do this in Google Maps. But if it's red, it means it had 0 contacts. So you see like Lee County down here. If it's purple, 1 to 10 contacts. Here's some purple. Yellow is double digits, 11 to 99. Here's Halifax. Light green is triple digits, 100 to 999. There's Page County right there. And if it's dark green, there's more than 1,000. So you look in 2005, and you got green here, but look at all the purple, you know, and all the red, and down here. It looked pretty sparse. And then we go to 2006. So that's 2005, and you can watch it. There's 2006. And you can see a lot more light green. 2007. 8, look at that, oh my, almost nothing. 9, a little bit of red. 10, oh, purple popped up. 11, 12, purple popped up down here, 13, 14, 15. That was the year we had no counties and independent cities that did not have contacts. 16, 17. So you can go, that's almost like a movie, you know? So you can pick your favorite spot, wherever your favorite spot is, and you go through the slides. And it's kind of interesting to see how it changes over time.
Still looks pretty random though.
It does look random, doesn't it? Yes.
There's some consistent spots, but
It's like up here is fairly consistent, you know, but that's heavily populated Northern Virginia. And the rest of it just seems to change, and I really do not know why. Maybe some of it is, you know, just thresholds, right? Because 999 to 1,000 could change color. Maybe. Okay, so we have two club plaques. One club plaque, we just take the scores of all the logs that get submitted where you've indicated your club is, you know, Vienna Wireless. And we add those scores together. And this is the High Club Combined Score plaque. And right up here at the top of the plaque is the Fauquier Amateur Radio Association from Fauquier, and they also have some people in Prince William. And this past year they had 1.6 million points just from adding their logs together. And let's see here, Vienna Wireless. I don't even know if I got it as far down.
In the first column, down, that's it, right here, down, down a little, down.
Right there, Vienna Wireless, 21,942. One person must have made that.
Kevin.
That was that Parsons, right, from Hopewell?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he drinks a lot of coffee.
All right, so this is what it looks like over time. So 2008, 9, blah, blah. And here's, right here, the dominant club in 2008 was a Central Valley Contest Club. And they're out of Richmond. They were really strong. They had, and I hope I got the name of the station right, W4MYA in Goochland. Really, really strong contesting station. And they would get his station, and they dominated that high club plaque for years and years. I mean, even out to here. And then right here, that station fell apart. But remember that guy in the lower right-hand corner of that slide where I talked about the community, John Huggins, KX40, when he said, you know, that's not fair, having the big, strong station dominate this, so we want some Virginia QSO only plaques. But part of his effort was he also encouraged people in his club to participate. And so a lot more people in his club participated as a result of that drive. And so the Fauquier Amateur Radio Association then in, 2011, started winning that plaque, consistently winning that plaque. Except for, yes, consistently winning that plaque, even right here in, 2013. They came close to being upset by the Loudon Amateur Radio Group, but the Loudon Amateur Radio Group missed it by just a little bit. So,
Central Valley to go down, did they just lose membership or?
the station was disassembled for some reason, and I do not know why. And so the big multi station went away, and they had a few operators, but they had a really, really strong station. And they were doing a lot of overseas contacts to build up their score. And when the station was disassembled, that went away. So here are the log counts by club. And here's the Fauquier Amateur Radio Association, and last year they had 42 logs submitted. So a lot of those logs aren't very big, you know, but let's say you submit a log and you get 10 contacts or 20 contacts, and they're all in the state of Virginia, but you know, you multiply that by 40 logs, and pretty soon you're talking about a substantial number of points. And that's the Fauquier Amateur Radio Association approach, and they work that very, very, very hard. The next one was Potomac Valley Radio Club, which is that big contesting club. They had 20, Shenandoah Valley Amateur Radio Club 16. And here's LARG down there with 13 logs submitted last year. So at some level, this is not necessarily about how big of a station you are or how much power you can put out or how long you can sit in a chair, but it's about getting participation from your club and everybody submitting logs. Putting the club name in there, yes, that helps.
So if we organize an effort within our club and we all work each other.
Sure. Yeah, that's fine. I'm sure that happens at Falkier. You know, at least they know where everybody is and they're all in the local area and they're at least talking to each other. Yep. Okay, now we have High Club Virginia QSOs only. So for the electronic logs that we get in, we rescore them. We score them a second time, and we only count contacts made in the state of Virginia. And remember, I said John Huggins, KX40, suggested we do Virginia QSO thing. He sponsors that plaque. And of course, the first year they won it, Falkier Amateur Radio Association. And the second year they won it, and the third year, and the fourth year, and the fifth year, and the sixth year. This was a surprise right there. This was, what, 2015? I can't see. LARG came out and won. I was so used, and this is why it's nice having someone check my screen. I was so used to the Falkier Amateur Radio Club winning that thing that I assumed, because they had won the combined score for that year, that they had also won this one. And I was fat, dumb, and happy, and I called up John Huggins and I say, your club has done it again. And about 2 weeks later, I started going through and checking everything again. And I found out that LARG won that by, I don't know, 5,000 points or something like that. A real small number of points.
That was a hard telephone call, wasn't it?
Yes, that was. But I said, John, you have all my data. I sent him all the data because he checks my scores. And he went through and he has a standalone logging scoring program. And he came back and he said, yep, they won. But you notice what happened last year. LARG fell apart. And the Falkier Amateur Radio Club did about the same. I wouldn't say LARG fell apart. I don't know if any of you knew AI2C, but he was a big CW operator out in Leesburg, and he died. And when he died, the huge number of points he got for doing the CW work and submitting a CW log went away, and their overall score just plummeted.
Kevin, don't die.
So, we talked about, you know, the club, how that their club organizes themselves and encourages everybody in the club to go out and participate in the party and submit a log. And in addition to that, they organize it so they look at all of the plaques and they make sure that they have somebody competing in each one of the plaque categories. Right? You as a club can't win a lot of plaques if you don't have anybody participating in that category. And so that results in their winning, the Falkier Amateur Radio Association consistently winning a large number of the plaques. So last year, members of their club won 9 of the 27 plaques. And that's not necessarily because they're any good, or I'm sorry, they're great operators. Stay in your seat, keep your hands and feet to yourself. But they got themselves organized and they try to make sure they have everything covered. And it works out very well for them. Here's LARG. LARG we thought was going to be competitive with them for a while. You know, there was 3, 4, 3, 4, and last year they dropped down to 1 plaque. And of course, some of these plaques aren't hard to win, right? One of these 9 is a digital. There were only 2 digital entries last year. You just had to have someone working that category in your club. I am continually amazed at how people do better and better every year. The sunspot cycle is supposed to be going down. Contacts are supposed to be becoming harder to get, and yet every year there are new high scores set. So, you know, people just work at it harder. So these are the 27 plaques. Last year we had 5 new high scores out of those 27 categories. So they're marked here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Might people be tending to use higher power?
No, it does not matter. Okay, so the one I have highlighted right here is K1RO Mark from New Hampshire. Remember I talked about how Ontario just beams down and covers the entire state? Well, last year, Mark at his station in New Hampshire had the same thing. He worked 80 meters, and he was, every time I went on 80 meters, he was on there calling CQ. He probably operated the entire 24 hours. And he won 3 plaques last year. High, outside Virginia, single operator, okay. And high, single operator, Virginia counties and independent cities contacted. He contacted 119 of the 133 counties and independent cities last year from New Hampshire. And right here, high single operator, Virginia QSOs only. I mean, that was just an amazing effort by him.
He's not married, is he?
And look at this. You know, the score on this one jumped from 97,000 up to 124,000, right? I mean, big jump. 164,000 for mobile up to 181,000. You know, big increases in scores. Every year it happens. I'm always amazed at that. We have certificates. I hope over the years, even though you're not recognized as a member of the Vienna Wireless Society, you participate, you've gotten a certificate. You know, we try to change something every year. There's the boat, there's the seashell, the dogwood, the state bird, the state dog, the state bat, which apparently exists out on the western border of Virginia somewhere in 2 counties. The state fish and the state butterfly and the ponies from the island. And I gave this presentation down in Smithfield, Virginia at the Radio Club, so I flew in a Smithfield ham. The Virginia peanut, the Hanover tomato, the dogwood, the state shell, and then I started doing things that deal with radio. And here's Malin Loomis in 1865, the last year of the Civil War. You know, he made contact between 2 lakes out there in Loudoun County, just west of us a little bit. There's a little diagram over there on the right-hand side. There's someone who puts out a book about this, a little pamphlet he has been Xeroxing about 100 times, and I've got a copy of that at home. I like how technology evolves over time, and this year we talked about the 3 sisters. The 3 sisters were radio towers up there outside of Fort Myers, and I like the picture on the left because those are the 3 sisters. They're very tall radio towers. With, you know, the advent of CW wireless communications, talking to Paris, and at the same time, here's people practicing a cavalry charge at Fort Myers. I mean, the juxtaposition of the technology there I found fascinating. And there's another picture of the 3 towers. Here's WRVA. They went on the air. They're a commercial radio station. Voice of Virginia. Edgewood Radio, because Edgewood Tobacco was a big sponsor of that radio station. They were down there on Tobacco Road, which is just, you know, in Virginia, right along the river. And here's their mobile operation. There's an old panel truck that they would go out and record shows in. Here's the Hamsat that Thomas Jefferson High School sent up. It never did work, but they sent it up. Here are the 2 past presidents that were from the state of Virginia, Vic Clark and, of course, Kay. This was last year. The Richmond Amateur Radio Club, down in Richmond, one of the 2 big clubs in Richmond, celebrated their 100 years as a club last year in April. They trace their lineage back to George C. Robinson, 3GX, who was one of 5 operators on the 1913 Department of Commerce list of amateur radio operators in the United States. And he was a founding member of the Tri-County Radio Club in April 1916. And That became the Richmond Shortwave Club and then became the Richmond Amateur Radio Club, and 100 years. I think ours dates to like 1969. I don't know when Vienna Wireless dates to.
We celebrated our 50th anniversary, what, 2-3 years ago?
Last year, we had this other plaque from the Shenandoah Valley Amateur Radio Club. And we put them up there because I like John, N4MM. I don't know if many of you know him, but he's been around for a long, long time. And for a long time, I couldn't figure out how John, N4MM, knew enough to write the popular logging program N1MM. You know. It took me a while, but John and another guy, Sam, W4YSE, who are still alive and still go to meetings out there. Last time I was out there, which was last year about this time, they helped build their Radio Shack in 1954. And that shack is still there, and they've added another garage out the back, and they have, I don't know, 7 or 8 towers out there now, and a very nice radio room in the back of their meeting room. We don't have that. We meet wherever someone is willing to give us free meeting space.
Whose property is that on?
It's owned by the club. John, yes, he tells me, John tells me that when he built that as a teenager, when he helped build it as a teenager, they were out in the middle of nowhere. They're about 2 miles, maybe south of the center of Winchester. And back then that was out, nowhere around them. Now they're in the middle of this suburb, you know, just like we have suburbs around here. But
Do you know how much acreage they have?
maybe 2. It's not very wide. It's like the standard building lot width, but it goes deep. And they've been fixing it up lately also. I mean, you can tell it's an old building inside. They still have, you know, nice flooring on it. And all right, so now we come up on 2018. I do not have an idea. The default idea is to give Fauquier Amateur Radio Association, you know, I'll just say, go design a certificate. You know, you've been winning this thing for so long. But if someone has another good idea, I won't do that. How are we doing? This is the next to the last slide. We're almost done. How are we doing? Okay. California in October 16, a year ago, had 936 logs. Florida had 573. Pennsylvania had 427, and we had 399. The previous year, we were reversed. We had a few more logs in Pennsylvania. So by rank by logs, we're number 4 in terms of the state QSO parties. That's pretty good. And it's pretty good because if you look at the number of licensed operators in the state, California has over 100,000, Florida has 41, Pennsylvania has 23, we have a little more than 19,000. So if you just calculate logs submitted over number of licensed operators in the state, you're kind of mixing apples and oranges. But if you do that multiplied by 100, you get a percentage. And we do very well. You know, by participation, percent participation, we do twice as well as California. So, you know, we had to be number 1. So that is how we are number 1.
That Excel spreadsheet allows you to
Yes, you do all this sort of stuff. Well, that's it. I hope to see you all on the air in 2018.